Welcome to Malvern Books and the Making Austin Weirder reading event. We're going to do 5 or 6 readings, maybe 5. We've got one person who's still en route. 5 minutes each of new work by some of our local Austin science fiction and fantasy authors. All the books are over there for people if you want to browse and take a look. But we're going to be reading, a lot of this is from new work, so you get to find out what everybody's working on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the, I'm going to read out the bios. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce everybody with their bio as they come up to read. And there's no order at this point, so I'm going to let people raise their hands and who wants to read first. I'm going to be timing this. As soon as the timer goes off, you are done, okay? Because we're gonna zip through these. But who would like to read first and start the party rolling?
You know what? I'll do it.
All right.
I'll do it.
All right, everybody. Ashcroft. See if I have your.
You get a 30-second leniency from the time perspective.
No, you do not. You think you do, but you do not. All right, Robert Ashcroft, trained as a cryptologic linguist, which sounds very science fiction-y, has worked as a State Department contractor and was recently mobilized to serve abroad with the U.S. Army Reserve. His debut novel, The Megarothke, was published this past February, and he's going to be reading from a new science fiction work. And hold on a second there, sir. I'm going to get. And the way it's going to work is this is going to go off, and I'm going to stop it. It's not actually a very loud alarm, so
No?
But all right.
Can I set the scene?
You absolutely can.
Give people a minute.
Okay, yeah.
No, come on, guys.
This is from a new novel called The Keeper of the Stranics, and so the character's in a shuttle alone with another woman, and they're both descending in the atmosphere. He was in a war where some bad stuff happened, where he was collaborating with an alien race, and he hasn't talked to them, and no one has for a long time. And my novel, The Megarothke, is over there. It's a debut. You guys should check it out. Okay, so. Man, I feel like I'm focusing on this a little too much here.
Yeah, I'll focus on the fun time. You just read.
All right,
Yeah.
ready?
Go.
Dr. Gretchen Holder, Grantham read aloud from the card. The holographic picture had her hair pulled back into a bun, makeup and mascara tastefully applied. A full contrast from her rather grubby appearance in person. I've read your studies before. I didn't know you were so young. I get around, she said. Grantham frowned and looked down again at the card, firmly aware that she was still staring at him. Swiping it briefly over his wrist to the contact info uploaded into his system. That's a double entendre, Gretchen said, then gave a smoker's cackle, followed by a fit of hoarse coughing. Heard you got divorced, she added. Grantham huffed through his nose and pocketed the card. I guess I get around too. You should never marry an actress, let alone one who gets in the tabloids, Gretchen said. They're self-absorbed and constantly seeking novelty. Besides, marriage is so old-fashioned. I couldn't dream of spending the rest of my life being trapped with one person, let alone only sleeping with one. Maybe you two would have more in common than you think. You were a keeper, right? During the war? I don't really want to talk about that period of my life, Grantham said, staring straight ahead of the seat cushion in front of him. Oh, come on. It's all public information. Then go read about it. A lot of people said that you murdered an entire band of Ashram. You bursted their brains, so to speak. They feel like they got a pretty raw deal. They're probably right. You come near my weavers with that shit, and I'll be the first one to tear you apart, Gretchen said, jabbing at him with her piece, leaving a small ribbon of smoke in the air that neither rose nor fell. They're sensitive little spiders, and they don't like mind games. Little? Okay, so they're enormous and harmless, but also dangerous. Grantham said nothing. Anyway, that's probably what made you so attractive to her, Gretchen said, looking up at the ceiling as if imagining the inner life of a movie star socialite. She was already rich and famous, but to have a war hero / criminal at her side, someone infamous, you were like a prize brooch to wear at parties. Grantham wanted to respond, but the words cut deep, and he knew that anything he said would be too severe. When tired, when pushed to the brink of polite discourse, Grantham had a curse of saying things that ended conversations, ended relationships. They say danger's an aphrodisiac, she said. Does this conversation make you uncomfortable? The gravity lights blinked above their heads. The ship began to shake as they entered the atmosphere. Gretchen shrugged and turned back around and put on her seatbelt, now sitting along the aisle. The heat waves on the windows and the great roar of friction provided a brief respite from the conversation. Upon entering orbit, Grantham felt it, like a long, thin funnel had begun to pour cold sand into his ear. Cold sand that slowly filled his bones and lungs. As they continued to drop, soaring downward toward the cloud line, his stomach clenched like a rag being squeezed and twisted. Did you feel that? He managed to say across the cabin. Feel what? Gretchen called back, looking over her shoulder. The sensation. Oh, it's just the planet. It does this to everyone on their first time down, she called back, half turned in her seat, but apparently not worried and just doubled over posture, his pale face with the way his fingers gripped the armrest. The planet does this? Yeah, there's some strange electromagnetic field. Once we land, they'll give you methafluzone. What? Methafluzone, she enunciated, totally unaffected. No, this, Grantham's mind raced, as if his entire past were being sucked through a black hole and vaulted into the future. Taking one of the bags from the seat pocket next to him, he vomited heavily. Jesus, it's not normally this bad, Gretchen said, pushing up out of her seat to look back at him for a better view. The Stranics are here, Grantham managed to whisper. The Stranics? She said incredulously. Yes, Grantham said, head down, spitting into the bag several times to clear his mouth. No, it's just the planet. Besides, the Stranics agreed to stay on Callisto. No one's ever even seen one for years. You should know that. You were one of the last keepers. Why wouldn't Mina have mentioned this? Grantham thought. We'll get some drugs for you. We'll fix you right up, Gretchen said. Grantham looked at the tiny base in the distance, rapidly growing larger as they descended. The Stranics were there, somewhere. Perhaps Mina had not mentioned it, Grantham thought to himself, because if she had, he would not have come.
Ooh.